we'll go from there. Right, we'll start now before the people come on. Morning, you all. Morning, Imran.
Morning, Neil. Morning,
I'll
everyone.
Chat with a few of the others about the markets, and obviously this morning it looks very flat, very quiet, as we did expect. Early in the week, there's not a lot of meat on the bone, so I'll quickly rush over the news if we can. How I put it down here: Biden and China. Biden's getting a little warning to China about everything else. U.S. oil input slumps. Obviously, that's why the prices rise. Everyone who's known about me today, we've had the issue all week, which I've said to a lot of people about the U.S. Yields. You know, the U.S. Yield curve has somewhat rallied. And obviously, anyone who does know about the markets will know if the yield curve rallies, it's showing that they believe there is something untoward, whether it's inflation, which it probably is. And normally, 9 times out of 10, if the yields start to rally too far. And remember, this time last year, 10-year yields were 0.66, so it was almost double where we are. The market hasn't really moved very much. However, the move yesterday to new highs put the selling pressure into the indices. The other thing we have to work out is on the 26th of February, Biden wants his vote for the 1.9 trillion stimulus to go through, which I think should go through before the last round of the payments it gives out on March the 14th. Again, quietness. We had China and the New Year. Yesterday, Mary Daly spoke at 8 o'clock, which pushed the indices back up. She said, and by the way, remember it, we should be less fearful about inflation around the corner and recognise the fear that costs millions of jobs. We'll find that obviously coming back to 7 o'clock this evening on the minutes, because Mary Daly is one of the voters on the FOMC. So you can see where she's coming from. She will go for more QE and obviously the look for negative interest rates. One vote. So remember that. Obviously today the RPI and CPI came out slightly better. Which is slightly more inflationary. However, not a lot of the distance to worry about. But remember, the Bank of Inflation's target is 2%, so 0.7% doesn't really put us there for the end of the year 2021. 9:30 UK house prices, 10 o'clock EU construction output. So not much on the bone this morning. However, this afternoon we have US retail sales at 1:30. We're looking at a 1% at 2 o'clock with Fed barking, talking, 2:15 capacity utilisation, business inventories, and 17:30 Fed rising rate will move the market. And obviously at 7 o'clock, the Fed's minutes. Going over the Fed's minutes, it's what they talk about, yes? What they're going to talk about: unemployment, tapering, vaccine, inflation, and bond yields. All of those things they would have mentioned in the last meeting. Remember, they've got a meeting again in 3 weeks' time. So we go into that. Let's go into the shared screen. Not so much really to talk about where we are on the 8 o'clock show. And I'm going to look at the FTSE. You can almost look at whatever you want, really, but I don't think there'll be much price action at 8 o'clock. Hello, as Ilan said, because we've had the CPI be slightly worse and be slightly more inflationary, you would have thought that should bring a bit of selling pressure to the FTSE. We were going for 0.6, it was 0.7, so in theory, slightly more negative. But if we look at the FTSE for the last 2 hours, it's hardly moved. If we look at it, look at the DAX, for instance, that's hardly moved as well. So in theory, again, we always look for that profile. We have seen the DAX come off somewhat in the last 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 26, not a lot in the DAX. So the same thing, we're looking at a very quiet opening this morning, the same thing. So what we have to work out, if we are going to scalp, we'll put it to scalp less or look for less of the opening. Maybe look for 26 in the FTSE sometimes and say 50 in the DAX. We may have to halve that. Therefore, if we're going to halve it, we probably have to make our stop even tighter. Therefore, it comes under that word, is it worth trading? Because we know coming in the afternoon from 1:30, it's going to be busier. Yeah, but that's where you've got to take in line. Those of you who are looking at on the sim, you probably look at the 8 o'clock opening from the CPI, is that there probably should be a bit of selling pressure in the FTSE on the opening. And as we come into the opening, FTSE just dropped off, was it 4 or 5 ticks? No, that's expected. I mean, I think yesterday, what did we say yesterday on the opening? That the support level, I wrote it down here, was 6,725. I think the low was 23. So again, a very quiet day in the FTSE, and maybe again this morning we're probably looking at more than probably 40, 50 ticks. Looking at the FTSE here, we have seen it coming off. Yeah, probably what we're on a 5 minutes chart here. And then what's annoying is that I wanted this to happen at 8 o'clock, and we've suddenly seen it drift off where we are now. 10 ticks, 12 ticks, basically probably on that CPI news. Only because if you look at the BBC news and everything else, they make it a big headline. You know, UK inflation rises, but in theory hasn't risen by a lot. Again, those of you who've got your trader made, you can use your market profile. That worked fairly well yesterday. Unfortunately, at the moment, on the point of control and the value low, there's not much there. You might have to go to yesterday's, which you see to the left there. You see a bit of traffic around here, 33, 35, 37. Now, all these entries here tell you, yeah, there's a lot to get round there, and we may see us open there around about 8. Yeah. Okay, so that's where we are. Not a lot, unfortunately, to talk about. Those of you who was there, I think Imran and Daniel there, we were looking at some new contracts yesterday. I just passed it over Ilan. When it's quiet like this, if you're on the sim, what we were looking at was Treasury bonds, and yesterday we were looking at the Bund 10-year against the Bund 5-year, Bund bubble. Yeah, years ago they were the popular things government bonds to trade, and with the yield curves rising, and that's in every email today. Have a look at those, see how they trade. They do trade with the news, and obviously on the figures yesterday, especially the European figures, the bond market was moving more than the DAX and Euro stocks. So anything else, don't just get cemented with one trade. Whether you want to trade, whether it's FX or commodities or shares or whatever. So we get again, we'll come into the 8 o'clock, and again, what we were remember yesterday's low in the FTSE was 6,723. At the moment, that's a target. We're also aware of why the FTSE is coming off, probably more than the other indices, is that of the CPI that came out earlier on. Okay, so we'll go there. Again, keep your hand on the map. Once you see that price action, yeah, go with the price action. Yeah, so therefore we have very tight stops. On the opening, you're scalping. Remember, scalping is different from trading. Because I know we've got a few new people on today who haven't seen before, and welcome, first of all. But all we look at the open is that it's price action. We're looking at people's supply and demand. Keep it simple. They've got orders to sell on the open at 8 o'clock. That's when the cash market opens because of CPI, because of whatever reason. And all they've got to do is sell X amount. They don't care about the price. We as day traders do care about the price because it's pounds, shillings, and pence. However, at the 8 o'clock opening and at 2:30 opening on Wall Street, the big boys just have to sell a bite market, and you suddenly normally get a big shift down or up, and then it tends to retrace back because all those people have to do is sell either 25 bananas, 100 bananas, 200 bananas, 200 bananas, and they have to just fill that order on the open at 8 o'clock. The same at Wall Street. That's why we get these big moves, especially in the Wall Street and the DAX. So again, we saw that move on the FTSE on the way down just before 8 o'clock. The cash markets open, and in theory, if we look at the profile of the FTSE, what we're on Q now, what did we get down to Q? According to this, we got down to the low 30s. So in theory, with the point of control, it's probably exactly where we were at 7:55 when most of us come onto the call. Yeah. So again, keep it tight on the FTSE. Not a lot of reason there. From 8 o'clock, there's probably no reason to trade. So no, if you haven't traded, you think, well, look at that massive red candle here, all the way down here. That happened before 8 o'clock. We do tend to say if we do trade the opening, trade on 8 o'clock, not before. because all the big cash boys, all the big funds wait until the cash market opens, because then they can trade against something else. All right. That's all we've got time for this morning. We might come back to do a minutes one at 7 o'clock this evening. Depends on how tired I feel or how the market's going. But again, you look at the FTSE, it is drifting down, and we know the reason it's drifting down because we've done our homework. It's probably the CPI, not by a lot. If you whack over to the other indices and we see where DAX has probably been a cleaner break. There we are. DAX from 8 o'clock probably was the clean break. Yeah, 50 ticks. Let's look at Euro stocks. There we go, down here. Again, that was pretty clean as well. 10 ticks. Yeah. So again, are we seeing the rumours of the bond yields? Those of you who aren't aware of the bond yields, I put a few emails up there about how the bond yields work and where they are. So in theory, the inflation debate continues, is up here. So I'd read that. It's on there. There's one from investing.com and a few from other people. It's very important, and most old traders like myself, will tell you that the yields don't lie. So we'll try and do a Zoom session on government bonds. But if you can read up about them, and we'll put a lot on the discussion group. James Fay does the same. If you don't understand the bonds or you're new to it, we do a very multiple choice question that will get you on the ladder to learn about them. If you want that sent to you, just whack it on the discussion group, and I'll send you the 15 question on multiple choice. All right, those who I've got one-to-ones with, we'll do that at 9 o'clock. Okay, the rest of you have a good day. And
thank you, Neil, and you, mate.
Thank you.
Cheers, Neil.
Thank you.